All right, so in today's recap, we're going to go over the trades that I took on TENX. This is a stock that went up over 100% in less than 15 minutes this morning. It pulled back a little bit and then it continued even higher. Let's look at the chart. This was an impressive move. The stock literally goes from a low of about $8 a share all the way up to a high of $23.39. This had seven green candles in a row on the 5-minute chart. This was impressive. However, I didn't begin trading it early in the move. I sort of waited for it to prove itself because when it first started to pop up, the volume was light and the spreads were big, and that creates a lot of risk. Now, as a day trader, I am a hunter of volatility, but as always, I'm a manager of risk. I have to be able to manage my risk. If I can't manage my risk, I'm not going to take the trade. So as the stock first started squeezing up, it hits my scanners, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, this thing is moving quickly. And that was right in this sort of very beginning of the move, right in here. Okay, so it starts popping up, but you could see when you look at these candles, and this is a 10-second chart, these aren't very real candles. Like, you can't really, they have no volume. That's why they look kind of funny. There's not a lot of volume behind them. So it kind of goes to 11, and then it shows 12.30 on the offer, but it was 11 on the bid. So that's a spread of $1.30. All right. So 11 on the bid by 12.30. That is a big spread. That means if you bought 2,000 shares right here at 12.30, you're already down $2,600 on the bid just in the spread. So obviously I can't trade a stock with a spread that large. I had to wait for it to tighten up. Now it did sort of tighten up here. It pops up to a high of 12.98. But then it's down to 11.78 on the bid still, so still about $1 a share. Then it pops up to a high of 14.37. And then it dips here down to 12.58, $2 a share. So this was an area where, it's like it was starting to show strength, but it was not easy to trade. Let me show you the first trade that I took on it. So I'm going to scroll back here. So we're going to zoom forward here a little bit. All right, so it ends up hitting this high of about $15 a share, and then it pulls back. What I did for my first trade was a dip trade. I decided to buy off of $14. Right down here is $14. This blue line right here is 14. And what I was seeing at 14 was the stock was selling on this red candle at 14, but there was a buyer at 14. It came down, sold against 14 again, but there was a buyer against 14. So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy at 14. Let's see. I got in at 14.23. I was like, I'm going to get in here off of support. I got in at 14.23 because that was the spread. It was $14 by 14.23. So it's, obviously not exactly what I would prefer. I would rather be in at 14.02 or something like that. But nonetheless, 14.23 was fine. So I got in at 14.23. Let's go back here. And it squeezes up here. And as it breaks through this high of $15 a share, I added to the position. So I doubled my position, which now increased my cost basis from 14.23 to about 14.60 or something like that. Anyways, it hits a high of 15.69. It goes sideways right through here. Sideways, sideways, sideways. I take some profit, and then as it pulls away right here, I added back. I added back for the high a day break. This was a little aggressive because rather than buying off of support, I was buying literally as it was hitting a new high of day and breaking over $15.69. But what I did was I went with smaller size. I was like, I'm going to add every 50 cents. I'll just keep adding. So that means I start at about 15.50, add about 16, 16.50, 17, 17.50, and next thing you know, it's going up to 18, 18.50. It hits a high of 18.56. I take that off the table right there, and as of this mark right here, I'm up about 5,000 on the day. So and you can see how that happens from $14 up to 18. That's $4 a share. You don't even have to trade with large, even with just 1,000 shares, that would be nearly $4,000. So I didn't trade with big size on this. My biggest position was probably 3,000, maybe 3,500 shares. I didn't go heavy on it, mostly because we still had an issue with bigger spreads and liquidity wasn't amazing. But I was in spite of that, I was able to do okay. All right, so it pulls back here, got another trade up to 1850, and then this was the high of day. So at that point, I drew this. Well, I didn't draw it yet. So then it pulls back here, and now it's got support at 17. So we get a bounce off 17, which was a double bottom. So I took this long here against this double bottom. It bounces up here to 1823. Not bad. That's $1 a share. It comes down again. I did it again. I bought this dip. It bounces back up to 18. This time it goes up to 1850. Fantastic. Awesome dip trade. So we had a couple really good dip trades on this. Now, it ends up going sideways here for a little bit. I took a really nice dip trade on this candle down here. It broke 17, which was our flat bottom support, and then it comes back up. But I didn't take this dip trade here because it didn't go quite low enough to 17. And then it pops up here to 1836, and all of a sudden on this candle, it rips up to 21, and I missed that whole move. It just happened so fast. I didn't want to chase it because I was afraid I'd be getting in at potentially the top of a big jackknife or a topping tail. In any case, it drops back down here, it goes sideways, and I do end up trading on this curl for the move back up to a new high of 23. However, I expected there would be some resistance up here. And the reason I knew that was because this trend line back here that I drew, we'll change the settings on this. We're going to extend left. Look at that. See how that comes right into this area? So I sort of thought there would be resistance there because I had drawn this ascending resistance line. It was support, but then it became resistance. All right, so we pull back, we start to sell off, and I was thinking, let's watch this $17 level for a possible bounce. That was in play earlier. Okay, so at the open, it comes down, bounces off of 17, nice bounce trade there. That was clean, bounce off 17. Ends up going a little bit lower, but we still got a good bounce off of that level. At this point now, it's pulled back more than I'd like. It's below VWAP, so I'm not going to take any more trades on it. We did this also corresponded to a bounce off of VWAP right here. So a nice bounce off VWAP right there. But in any case, we got some good action on it today, but pretty much at the open, it became choppy, big range, and was just too risky. This had potential to make a bigger move, but in any case, the move was already impressive from 8 to 23. So I did the best I could on it, locking up $9,000 of profit. That's a solid green day. I can't complain. I could have done better if I had felt comfortable taking bigger size, but it can be sometimes misleading to think, oh, if I had just taken bigger size, I would have made more money, because getting in and out would have been more difficult. The spreads were big. You know, I don't know that I actually would have made more money. It's possible that I could have taken bigger size and lost, because on some of the trades where I did take losses with bigger size, I would have had more slippage on the exit. Even right now, if we look at the level 2 on this, you can see that we've got nearly a 30-cent spread. So that means if you got in right here at 15.47 for the break, and it looks like a tight spread for a moment, and then it gets bigger again. So that's where this one has an ability to fake you out. You have to be a little bit careful. I think, you know, what this had going for it this morning, when I first sat down this morning, our gap scanner had AGFY as the leading gapper. It's a penny stock, lower price down here. And, you know, yes, it was up quite a bit at about 8 a.m., but it's a penny stock, so I wasn't interested in it. There were a couple other penny stocks that were in play today, NVIV. So I know some traders were paying attention to these ones, but, you know, I wasn't trading those. So we had some penny stocks that were leading the way. There really wasn't anything that looked good. And it was like, you know, 8:15, 8:30. And I was thinking, I wonder if this is going to be a no trade day. And then TENX pops up. And initially, when it was gapping up 10%, 15%, I was like, well, I see it moving higher, but the spreads make it untradeable. However, it has lots of room to the 200 moving average. It's a somewhat recent reverse split that has not yet done a reverse split bounce, but today it has. You know, so I thought, all right, this could work. So if we pull up the ticker here and we look at more detail on it. So TENX. So this is it's a U.S. company. And let's see. So this morning, this was the headline. Um, announces U.S. Patent and Trademark Office grants notice of allowance for, this whatever this is. I'm not an expert on biotech jargon, so when I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, there is a catalyst, there is news, and it's moving higher, so it's being well received, and that for me is sort of all I need to know short term to decide whether or not I'm going to take trades. But I was glad that this at least had a news catalyst. Some of the ones that we've traded in the last couple of weeks haven't had news. And although it's true, you can have a stock that's sold off for a long time and finally bounces and can make a nice move, even with no news whatsoever. Typically, I'm going to feel safer trading a stock that does have a news catalyst. It's just one of these things, like the GameStop short squeeze. It started to squeeze, started to move higher. I think there were some catalysts, but they didn't substantiate that type of move. I wouldn't say. It sort of was the excitement, and then next thing you know, it's up 100%, and now people are buying it just because it's up that much. And I think that's kind of what happened with TENX. It's kind of what happens every day, though. Stocks are up, and then people are like, "Oh, this thing's moving. I want to trade what's moving," and then they buy it, and it goes higher, and that shorts get squeezed out. I actually didn't check. Let's see what the cost was to borrow shares on this. I don't know if it was not easy to borrow at Lightspeed. Let's see. I could check the price though. So Lightspeed has a short request where you can type in the shares for just 100 shares, and then it shows you the price. My goodness. So right now it's giving me a 50-cent per share borrow on TENX and $3.26. I'm going to ask in chat, hey, what do you guys have as the price for borrows on TENX? Now, Lightspeed's not really a broker that caters to short sellers. So, they do have shares available of a lot of these stocks, but that's just not what they really cater to. So there may be other brokers that have better prices. Let's see. So someone's saying 66 cents earlier, 15 cents. Someone else is saying. Just curious. Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, so I don't know. So that, I don't know if too many people would have shorted it. But over $1 a share earlier. Yeah, wow. $2.82 at Guardian, and that's a broker that caters to short selling. So that's interesting. So it was very, very expensive to borrow shares on it, which maybe means it was less likely that short sellers were taking positions because it was just too expensive. So then you don't have short sellers selling into the spike. Without that selling, the buying is a stronger imbalance and it moves faster to the upside. On the other hand, when you have short sellers that, really take a big position and then it goes higher, then they can be buying back. So buying back, and then you get an even bigger move. So on the one hand, this first leg was perhaps bigger because of less short selling, but on the other hand, it probably didn't go up to like $40 or $50 a share because there weren't shorts that were getting squeezed out. GameStop would have never gone to 500 if there weren't shorts that got squeezed. So there is sort of a balance there. But all right. So in any case, that's interesting. So TENX, that was the only one I traded today. Very happy with my trading today. This was a super solid day. $9,000 is great. I didn't intentionally stop. I wasn't like, oh, I'm done trading. I just kind of got to a point where it dropped down. There was the bounce off 17, and then it came up to kind of VWAP and went lower. And I was like, well, I guess it's over, right? I didn't know at this point. It was breaking below VWAP, but I thought it could red to green move and rip up and halt up as we've seen before. And next thing you know, you're making a move higher. But today it just didn't. It wasn't able to do it. So anyways, that's fine. It is what it is. Got some trades on it. Trying not to have too much FOMO that I missed this one big green candle. If I had that with 1,000 or 2,000 shares, I'd be up well over 10 grand today. But you can't miss them all. You can't hit them all. You're going to miss some of them. You won't miss them all, and you won't hit them all. So some people missed the beginning, but they traded this. Other people traded this, but missed that. It's okay. You just got to let it go. Be back at it for the next trades, and there's always another one around the corner. My issue right now with trading anything off the high day momentum scanner is that we're kind of getting to a point in the day where the morning cycle is the strongest when news is first coming out and as the stocks are reacting to that news. So if you have a headline that comes out at 7 a.m., that stock will start trading at 7 a.m. Now, if you have a headline that comes out at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., there's not as much activity, but retail brokers begin trading at 7 a.m. So starting at 7, we're going to see some good price action on anything that had news from earlier in the day. So, 7, 7:30, 8, 8:39, and then at 9:30, that's kind of the end of news coming out pre-market and things slow down a little bit. So short of stock having brand new news right now, it's probably going to be slow until maybe possibly during the lunch hour, we'll see some stocks that gain some momentum, or going into power hour, or after 4 p.m., after the closing bell, earnings and things like that come out. So for right now, I think I've done the best I can, and I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. So make sure you tune into the recap. And I'll remind you, as always, to trade cautiously because trading is risky. My results aren't typical. I'll see you back at it first thing tomorrow morning.